And we are live. Welcome to Pro Prep Baseball. I'm Ken Arnold.
I'm Tommy Weber.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us. I know it's Tuesday night, but I had a movie I was working on, Tommy. So the past few weeks I was occupied. I was on set, actually.
Hey, you got to work, man. You got to work.
I got to work. It's a happy-go-lucky movie too. By the way, if I didn't tell you about it already, yeah, it's a happy-go. It's about heroin addiction.
Oh,
so, yeah,
that's always
exactly. Happy-go-lucky. It's not a comedy. I'll tell you that right now. So, it's very my first day on set, my first scene, Tommy. I'm dealing with a dying person. So I mean, it was insane.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it was insane, and I had to break down and cry, just like I did every day at Wagner.
That's easy for you.
Yeah, I just thought about Wagner College, the WAG, and I was in tears just like that. It took me a couple seconds, and I was bawling. How you been, man?
Renee
is he on?
Good. I'm really good.
Yes,
yeah, Renee's on.
Renee is on. Holy shamoly, man! We watch Curse of Oak Island together every Tuesday night at 9. So after this, we're gonna watch it. And we comment back and forth on Facebook about it. And there's one guy on the show, Gary Drayton, and that's his tagline is "Holy shamoly!" So he says some great stuff. So he's like a Tom Hain kind of a guy. Says really great things.
Really?
Yeah. Let's go, Green. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having flashbacks right now.
I know. Oh my God, he would grab me by the back of my neck, Weber. I still have fingerprints in the back of my neck. Oh,
yeah, and I'm half your size, and he would do the same thing. Those gorilla hands, those Sasquatch hands that he had.
Mm-hmm. All right. So how was your Thanksgiving? Everything good? You have a good time, good weekend.
All good. It didn't go crazy eating, but it's impossible not to eat too much. So the usual story.
Oh my God, I felt like
but the food was great. Everything was great, and the usual. It's family get together, and it's all good. All good. A lot of fun.
You see the people you want to see, and then you have to see some people when are they leaving? Why the hell? Why are they in my house right now? What's going on?
I'm glad you said that, and my wife didn't hear me say it.
Yeah, okay. Right. I said she can yell at me when she sees me. So I told my wife, I said, man, I can't wait to, get this over with. So. But we had a good time. The kids were all here. When we get all five of them together, I haven't had all five of them together in a long time. So, it's crazy.
Yeah, as they get older, that's going to be more difficult. Yep.
All right, we got more people on. Victor Coco joined. I see that Victor's on. So we've got two guys so far, but that's cool. Hopefully Andy will be on board soon because he was supposed to come back and talk about the Cy Young Award.
Yeah, I'm not. You know what? That's going to be a really short conversation. I'm done with that. That's in the past now. Just to show you how valuable winning that Cy Young Award is. Who cares?
Yes.
Now that it's done, nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody does care, really. I mean, it should be.
They still should have traded them.
They would have got some. They would have got some good stuff for him.
Sorry.
I'll tell you that.
Sorry.
Yeah, they would have got a couple prospects for him. Absolutely.
It would have been my Herschel Walker, man. That's what I would have done with him.
Oh, absolutely.
Never going to be more valuable than he was last summer.
Mm-hmm.
But that's over now.
That is.
Onward and upward.
All right. The Patton Sheffield deal. What are your thoughts on that?
Paxton?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Well, I think the question is for the Yankees: does Paxton pitch young, or does Paxton get injured? That's the question. There is a risk they took.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Sheffield is an unknown quantity. You don't know what he's going to do. He's a young kid who could be great one day, but that's going to be one day. Paxton, if he's healthy, is going to be a frontline starting left-handed pitcher for an entire season. And where the Yankees find themselves, looking up at the Boston Red Sox, that's very, very valuable. That's a big chip if that comes through. But, if you got inside the Yankee brains, you would see that they are, a little worried about whether or not this guy can go the whole season.
Yeah, he's had a history, right, of injuries through his career.
Yeah,
so.
And he's not young, and So but the Yankees usually, always actually, they play for now.
Mm-hmm.
They're about winning now, and there's a big margin between them and the Red Sox, and they have to somehow make that up. So, they've got a great minor league system, and they've developed a lot of really good players, and they're going to start using these pieces and these assets as profitably as they can.
He says Renee says he's 30, but he's in control for 3 to 4 years. So the Yankees have him for 4 years, 3 to 4 years. Is that what I'm understanding? Under contract? Contract?
I don't. Yeah, and I don't even know if the Yankees if that's even an issue when you're the New York Yankees. For most teams, that's an issue because the Yankees will pay and they'll overpay. The fact that he's 30, to me, speaks more to the injuries and his durability than his fiscal value. I'm worried about whether or not a 30-year-old left-hander who has a history of injuries is going to be able to make it through an entire season and make 30 starts. If he does, he's going to be a huge plus for the Yankees.
Absolutely. Left-handed pitcher in that ballpark, throw strikes.
He's real good.
Guys out. Yeah. So if he doesn't get hurt, yes, the Yankees made a good move. But then again, you got to wait and see. So a lot of trades have been proven bad because of injuries right away, too. So we'll see what happens with him when he gets to New York.
All in all, though, it's a deal I would have made.
Yeah.
Given I think deals have to be made in the context of where you find yourself as a team, just like the Mets. The Mets, would have. They really should have considered what it is they could have gotten back for a guy like Jacob deGrom. Not because you want to trade Jacob deGrom. It's because he's never going to be more valuable than he was this summer. Mm-hmm. And you might have been able to fleece some organization because the perception of Jacob deGrom, like most players, is that he's far more valuable than, in fact, he is. So, that's when you want to deal a guy. Regardless of how good he is, he's one guy. You could have maybe gotten 4 or 5 guys back for him.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great quality start season. Not a great winning season. Let's go there. He only had 11.
He's a tremendous. Look, the guy's
he's
tremendous.
He's
a
good.
Tremendous pitcher.
He's good.
And
you're right.
It doesn't matter. A tremendous pitcher on a second division last place team
doesn't
have any value to that team.
Exactly. But it could have value to you 2 or 3 years down the road if you can pull some top prospects, like 3 or 4 of them.
Exchange for him.
Yeah.
No question. No question.
And the Mets could be sitting pretty 3 or 4 years from now. But now I think they've kind of they're spinning their wheels in the mud. As far as
now you got a guy who, for the next 2 or 3 years, is going to play with guys like Jay Bruce and Todd Frazier on his team in the middle of his lineup.
Well, Renee, I think
good luck with that.
Yeah, I think the Yankees. Renee just commented he's not sure he would have traded a potential stud, for an injury-prone guy. Well, like Tommy was saying, the Yankees are a win-now organization, and to keep up with the Red Sox, they need starting pitching, and they need left-handed starting pitching. That's what I see. But the Red Sox are tough. The Yankees, their lineup is built to hit a lot of home runs and strike out a lot. I don't know if that equates to winning a championship. So I just don't. I think the Red Sox are built to win. The Astros are built to win, and the Cleveland Indians are built to win. So,
I like the Indians a lot.
Yeah,
I think they manager too.
Yeah.
I think Giancarlo Stanton struck out 515 times in the last 3 years.
He did. That's
which means that he spent one of those 3 years having struck out almost every time up.
Yeah. So, which is
right. You about 500 at bats.
Yes.
Okay. Think about that. So he spent a year where he struck out every time up.
Yeah, I posted I posted a picture.
That's incredible.
I posted a picture of him and Tony Gwynn. And Tony Gwynn struck out, I don't know, 400 and some times, 76 times in his career. Yeah, and Stanton struck out 500 and some. Just imagine if Stanton put the ball in play half of those times. Like cut it in half. Or even just 30% more, what he would do. I just don't get it. You're that big, you're that strong. The ball is going to leave your bat in a hurry. I don't care if you swing as hard as you can or if you just, focus on putting the ball in play. The ball is going to take off. So, all right, man. So here's a question for you, Webbs. Renee's talking about Robinson Cano right now. He asked about the talk about Robinson Cano. What do you think about him? What do you think about Cano and him moving forward with Seattle? So,
Well, I mean, Robinson Cano is one of the greatest second basemen I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
One of the greatest second basemen I've ever seen. I mean, he might be, the greatest double. He might be the last of the great double play men, because you don't have to be a great double play man anymore because nobody's allowed to take you out. So you're going to see that position and that aspect of that position really atrophy. It's just an easier play to make now that nobody's allowed to slide and even make contact with you. Yeah. And I'm not for, barreling into the second baseman or shortstop, but you should be able to take the guy out. Cano, you get that age, he's getting old. Moving forward with Seattle, what are their alternatives? You got to pay this guy a boatload of money. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's got a bad history now. I think this is going to be a very interesting season to see what kind of numbers he can put up, and he ain't getting any younger.
No, and the Mets and the Yankees just reminded us that Seattle approached them about a trade. I wouldn't trade for Cano. I wouldn't. As the Yankees, I wouldn't. We don't. No,
I wouldn't touch. No. I wouldn't. No.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't trade for Cano. The Yankees don't need Bryce Harper or Mike Trout or any of these other guys. These are not Yankees. If I were the Yankees, I'd try to stockpile good players. I think that's what good teams do. Yeah. That's what the Yankees did, and that's what the Red Sox do. That's what all these teams. That's what the Giants did when they won their World Series. Pile really good players.
Yeah. You're kind of breaking up on us here and there a little bit, Webbs. Just so you know. Just to let you know.
Sound?
Yeah, the sound. A little bit. Yeah. You're cutting out here and there.
I'll repeat myself.
All right. Here's a question for you. Dan Ford joined us, which is outstanding. Thanks for joining, Dan Ford. Players, young players, they have this. They play year round now. They're doing the year round thing. They're doing
right.
They're specializing in one sport. Do you think they should take some time off, and how much time do you think they should take?
I don't think the American player can afford to take any time off because he doesn't play enough during the season where he's supposed to be playing enough so that he can take time off during the off season.
Okay, fair enough.
If you look, I think this argument, this is a nostalgia argument where people remember when they were young and they played different sports. In the wintertime came, you played football in the street, and then you played hockey and basketball, and you played everything. Fine, I get it. But that's because you were playing baseball all day and night when the summertime. Kids don't play a lot. They just don't. They take large swaths of time off during the season when the weather is nice, and all their play is relegated to hyper-organized, showcase, travel ball style play, which is show up, play a few games, get some at-bats, and, get, I guess, a jersey or everybody gets a trophy, and they go home. There's very little practicing and free play. There's no guys gathering in the schoolyard or in a lot and playing. So would I like guys to play a different sport? Absolutely. But I think in this generation, you're going to see a proliferation of guys who are okay at a lot of sports, but not good at any of them because they're never putting enough time into any one sport to be really good at it.
I wasn't talking about actually playing different sports in this case. I was just, how much, is there a time that
just taking time off?
Yeah, get their body some rest. I mean, you need some rest.
If you live in the Northeast, my answer would be no.
Yeah. Okay, because
if you live in a warm weather place, my answer would be yes. Yeah, take a month off, take 6 weeks off, and don't do anything. You could afford to because the other 11 or 10 months of the year, you could play anytime you want. But in the Northeast or another cold weather, or Midwest, where you get 6 months to play, I don't know how you could afford to take time off.
Renee says with younger players, it would behoove them to rest fall and early winter and play other sports. Playing year-round are killing youth players physically. I agree. I would say, and I've told my guys, look, we're not going to do anything November, December. We're going to get back to it in January. But most of the guys that play for me are playing other sports. They're playing basketball, they're wrestling, they're doing something else. So it's not like, they're just sitting on their butts doing nothing. But I told them, hey, let's just focus on, because you get a lot of these injuries. The guys are like, my arm hurts, my elbow hurts. It's, all right, so what we'll do is...
Well, I mean, that's two different arguments. That's a different discussion.
Mm-hmm.
The arm hurting thing is directly attributable, and now the studies are starting to show almost categorically the desire to throw really hard, really early, the tracking of velocities when a kid is 13 and 14, tempting him to throw harder and harder and harder, is now coming back to bite these kids in the ass when they're 15 and 16 with arm injury.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all this, the arm injury stuff is very different. If you're talking about fatigue, I don't know how you could possibly be fatigued when a kid doesn't play 30 games or 40 games the whole summer. I mean, you're 13. How tired could you be playing 30 or 40 games?
Yeah.
And not practicing?
Yeah. Victor Coco asked us what sports for cross training directly contributed to baseball. And to be honest with you, Victor, in my opinion, any football, basketball, track, didn't matter. You were working on stuff. Yeah, fencing. Absolutely. Badminton. Fencers,
right?
Badminton.
We always badminton.
Badminton.
I was a big badminton guy.
I was.
That was great.
Man, I was all pro badminton player out there on the court. The shuttlecock, I could hit the hell out of that thing.
Watch your mouth.
I will.
I agree. I think being involved in sports and competing and sweating and playing and getting tired and fatigued, I think all of them are good. I think there's a great transfer of learning amongst all sports. I really do, because you get to be on a team and you have to listen to a coach and you have to be on time and you got to do all the things that make you a good teammate, which in turn make you a good player.
Exactly. Well, speaking about being a good teammate and speaking about putting time in, let's jump on to the next thing. That article I sent you, rewarding failure. In the New York Post, it was an article from June, so it's about 6 months old. But I read it the other day and I sent it to you, and it was spot on. It was absolutely spot on with what we're seeing everywhere around the country and around the world, where they're lowering the bar just to allow people to participate. Instead of, if you get cut from your high school team, too bad. Maybe this sport wasn't for you.
No more too bad, man.
Right?
Too bad doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't.
It does. Too bad is not in the. You say too bad to somebody, and you'll hear from their attorney. I mean, you'll hear from a lawyer. So, you can't say that. You can't. Not that you can't, but you're gonna get some. You're gonna get some back talk. I remember in a championship season that we had in 2011, one of my players who hit 180. It was the second game of a 2 out of 3, and we were winning. It was kind of like the 8th or 9th inning, and I pinch hit our catcher. Now, this kid played every other day, and I pinch hit our catcher, our other catcher, for him in the 8th inning. So he played 8 innings, and he hit 180, and the kid who pinch hit for him hit like 370. Mm-hmm. And he, in the middle of the most important game of the season, walked up. Why'd you take me out?
All right, say that. Really? Can you say that again? You cut out there. Say that one more time.
He stood right next to me in the dugout and said, "Why did you take me out?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, if you really want to know, you're hitting 130. He's hitting 380. It's 2 out. We have 1 inning left to play. If we can get these 2 runs home, we have a 4-run lead. I'm going to take advantage. I'm going to use this situation to take advantage of the better hitter." So years ago, you would never ask your manager, "Why did you take me out?"
Yeah.
You would just accept that because he's the manager. Players don't do that anymore. And players don't do that anymore because they're empowered by everybody around them to speak up, ask, "How come? Why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't you get up in that situation? You're just as good as the other kid," irrespective of all the evidence that points to the contrary.
Well, that's fine. I don't mind a kid, asking me a question or why, but you need to be able to handle the truth, and not the truth as you see it, but the truth as, what it really is. You're hitting 180. But I'm going to, I'm going to pinch hit for you.
Right. You're hitting 180 all season long, 40 some odd games. Yeah. You're hitting 180. This guy's hitting 380. You've already played 8 innings. It's not like I'm not playing you. I play, when I had catchers, I'd play one guy one game, one guy another game. Because in summer ball, you got 2 catchers. I want them all to play. But, I mean, really, come on. That spoke to me at that moment. That spoke to me about a big sea change in what kids think they can ask and they can say. Because years ago, you would never question the manager. Yeah. Never. Yeah. In the middle of the game?
Yeah. So the article was about a cheerleading squad, and the girl got cut. So this young lady got cut from the cheerleading squad. Right. She didn't make it.
Right.
Well, one of the big issues was that the kids that did put the work in, the kids that went to practice, the kids that learned the moves and learned the gymnastic stuff and got the strength and the balance and the coordination to perform all that stuff, they were mad. They went to the school board and said, hey, I just worked my butt off for 18 months, and now you're just going to let this girl who can't do any of the stuff onto the team? Is that a fair way to go? Is that, where we're at?
I don't know about fair, but I do know this. I know about value. And when you tell a student or a player who has accomplished something on your team or in your class, that their accomplishments are going to get the same as someone who didn't attend class or wasn't as good as they were on the playing field, it devalues what the good player has.
Yes.
It has to. Eventually it has to.
And then
and we're really doing a terrible disservice when we think that kids should get a chance. No, you shouldn't. You should get an opportunity to play, and then the coach or the teacher or whomever makes a decision as to who they're going to go with. The 25 guys or the 10 cheerleaders, and you accept the decision of the coach. That's the way it goes.
Yeah. So Renee put it out there. He had a kid that asked him why he subbed him. He told him because his teammate earned some playing time. It's only fair. And then the kid never asked him again at 10U. At that age, I get it. The parents want their kids to play. They paid their money. It's fine. But
isn't that the problem?
Yeah. When you get into high school though, but I can see the reasoning. I get the issue. My wife gets the same way. If my kids aren't playing enough, she gets all uppity. So I don't. I'm just like, well, they need to play better. They need to work harder. They need to get out there and score a goal. You know what I mean? They need to do those things. But my wife gets pissed off at me.
You keep saying the things that are really the issue here. The issue is that parents shouldn't be involved.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
That's why I'm trying to stay out.
Your kid's bodyguard at 10 years old. I could make an argument for 10 years old, organized baseball. That's a problem in and of itself. It's too organized for 10-year-olds. There should be some free play where they go out and they play on their own and they organize their own games and, just play a game amongst themselves. It's so hyper-organized. You've got like 9-year-old tournaments now. Mm-hmm. At 9 years old. Come on, at 9 years old, they don't know where second base is, for crying out loud. I'm hearing people tell me, this kid's really good. He's 9 years old. How good could the kid be? Really? Come on. And I love your wife, but she's out of line. You know what? Here's the deal. If you really want equity, then you can't put your kid in a team sport. What you should do is if you want equity, put him in swimming or golf, where if he shoots 68,
that's what he shoots.
Yeah. Nobody can tell him that he's not good.
That's what he shoots.
Baseball is a game that the minute you put your kid in, you are giving up. He's no longer the master of his own fate, as you know, as I know, as anybody who's ever played or participated knows. You're out of line if you say your kid should play. You're wrong. I don't care how much money you pay.
Hey, Chris Gresham just jumped on board. He said playing time is earned at practice and prior to the game. Nothing should ever be promised, which I agree with. That's what I'm trying to explain to my wife. They got to go to practice. They got to show up on time. They got to get out there. They got to bust their butts. They got to earn their spot. I'm totally behind that. But at that age level, you're going to get the parents because they're spending money and they don't care. I've been on parents since I started coaching 20 years ago. Get your kid to practice on time. And I lay it out for them at the beginning of the season. If you're late, you don't do this, you don't do that, then your kid's not going to play as much as the other guys. And yet we still get crap for it every season. Doesn't matter.
That's why the perfect circumstance would be if nobody pays.
Yeah.
Then they can't pull that card.
Yeah.
Then they can't say, I paid my money. Because even if you tell them, no matter how much you pay, you give them the speech at the beginning of the year that I'm sure a lot of good, responsible coaches give, like the Mike Matheny speech. The bottom line is this. Once they get going, they're going to say, hey, I paid my money, my kid should play. Well, if you didn't pay any money, then you can't pull that card.
Yeah. Well, That ain't going to happen because, all the organizations want the money.
I understand. I understand that, and more power to them. If you could get people to pay you to do something, that's what America's about. I have no issue with that whatsoever. But that comes with consequences.
Yeah. But the core issue and the core thing in that article was the lowering of the bar, the lowering of standards across the board, not just in sports, not just in youth sports, but everywhere. Just, they talked about the fire department where they lowered standards so people could get in. The Marines, they talked about lowering standards so people could get in, right?
Yeah, just what you want when when they're coming to rescue you from a burning building. Somebody who didn't pass the physical
is coming to help you.
It's crazy.
Or trying to help
Nuts.
you. It is crazy. Right. It is crazy, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Now, I saw it when I was playing, and I'll probably get vilified for this if any women ever tune in and watch the show. But when I played for the Duluth Superior Dukes back in 1997, we played with the first female pitcher, professional pitcher, to ever play in men's minor league baseball. She didn't earn her spot there. And if there was a guy who had her talent, he would have never made that team. So, and the guys on the team who played, we played with her, we didn't feel as if she earned that spot. And that's part of the problem too. You're sitting back and you're saying,
well, she didn't earn it. She didn't earn it on the merits.
No.
She was given an opportunity because of something other than her ability.
Exactly.
And that's never good for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And also you're putting her in a position where she's destined to fail.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Because she doesn't belong there.
And when she was giving up, 6-7 runs an inning, who do you think's fault it was? They're booing us because, she's giving up 6-7 runs an inning. And, and I felt bad for the guy who got released because, they brought her on the team. They had to make a roster spot, right? So they released the guy.
Those kinds of circus antics prevent another guy who has an opportunity and has ability from doing something he's worked hard to do his whole life and should be there. Instead, you're making some kind of point by forcing someone down the throats of a league where if she were a man, she would never be in that league based on her skill alone.
No. And don't get me wrong. She was a very good athlete. She could play, right? She could play. She could play baseball, just not at the level that we were playing.
Right.
And they lowered the bar. They lowered the standards, because they thought it would sell more tickets, or for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Right. It's like Serena Williams is a great tennis player for a woman. She would get destroyed by the men.
Yeah, but she could probably beat some of the lower end guys, or at least be competitive with them. But she's not going to beat, Sampras or Federer or any of those guys.
No.
At their best.
No.
It's not going to happen.
Right. She's going to get killed.
Yeah, and I have daughters. I want them to compete, and I want them to be competitive, and I want them to go out and do whatever it is they need to do to get ahead. But
right.
I don't want them.
But they're not going to play in the they're not going to play in the NBA, and they're not going to play in the NFL.
And I don't want them to be handed anything either, though, Tommy. I don't want them. I want them to earn it. I want them to earn it. I want them to put the work in. I want them to do. And it just seems that this culture we've just fed, the beast we've fed, has taken over everything and everywhere. Just because I say I want to do it means that I should get the opportunity to do it. Really? Without putting any work in?
But understand, that's what we've created. We have done this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what daddy ball is.
Yeah.
That's the scourge that is, I have to coach my kid. I have to manage his team. Why? You don't go to school and teach him math. You're not his doctor. Why do you have to coach his team? I know why. Because you're going to run interference for him.
And I see it all the time.
That's why most parents coach.
See it all the time.
I'm sure you do.
See it all the time.
So do I.
And it's wait a second. You want your kid to do what? You want your kid to be our starting catcher, and he can't even catch the ball. What are you talking about? That's not going to happen. But because he's a coach, he feels like, well, I'm out here putting my time in. So my kid gets the opportunity.
Ken, the sandlots that are now gone and the schoolyards were wonderful laboratories. They really were. They really, you had perfection when you had kids get together, very few parents, almost no parents, and very few adults, right? Mm-hmm. And kind of you knew where you stood. There were no false positives. There was no thinking you were better than you were. Nobody was telling you were great when you struck out, because if you were on my team and you struck out, somebody said you sucked, and you didn't want to suck. So you worked hard to not suck the next day. Now we've removed all of that from the equation. You could never, ever feel bad. You could never, ever experience disappointment or loss. Mm-hmm. If you're not playing well on this team, I'll start my own team, and you'll be my shortstop, and you'll hit third.
Yep.
And nobody wins. Nobody wins.
Yep. Chris Gresham jumped in and said, baseball used to have a way to weed out those guys who couldn't make it. It's not now. Not now.
That's right. He's absolutely right. It was Darwinian. Mm-hmm. It is no longer Darwinian. It is no longer about natural selection and survival of the fittest. That's over.
You know where it is, though? The Dominican Republic.
No, I know where it is. And Latin America, Europe, the Far East, mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's survival of the fittest.
It's a cultural thing.
It's survival of the fittest. Those kids get outside, not organized. They're playing in the street. They're playing in a broken down field, and they're playing baseball every day for hours on end. And survival of the fittest. The better players are rising to the top, and then they're coming here, and they're taking over the game here. It's pretty much it. So, but here, no. Everybody gets an opportunity, and everybody gets to. No, it drives me crazy. The new word that I learned, Tommy, from reading that article. You ready? Here it is. It's a big one, and it's going to take me a second here, but here we go. Big words and me don't get along, Tommy Weber. You know that.
Oh, God.
When you come from ATCO, big words and ATCO don't go together. All right, you ready? Mollycoddling. How about that word?
Mollycoddling. Yeah, that's an old word. That's a very old word. Yeah.
But it was
used.
That's
like a 1930s word.
Mm-hmm. Mollycoddling. Yeah. Like a greenhorn. Yeah. Calling somebody a greenhorn.
Right.
Something like that. Right. Man, mollycoddle. That's a pretty sweet word. I'm going to use that more often.
Look, it's all well intended. Just like overfeeding your kids is well intended. You want your kids to eat. Well, you don't want them to eat too much, though. So that, a byproduct of having food in copious amounts is people will eat more of it. So you have to be the adult in the room and make sure your kid doesn't consume 32,000 calories a day. It's the same thing in baseball. Sometimes this is all people who are very well intended, but the results really are toxic to kids. It is. Yeah. It's my favorite word. I see it now that I'm working with some of my pro players indoors, and there's other people in these places, and 3-year-olds taking hitting lessons, and 7-year-olds coming in, and guys are giving them instructions like they were AA players. It's just really creepy and toxic. It is. I see it all the time.
I gotta say, sometimes when I'm out there and I'm coaching, I gotta take a step back. Because I work with high school guys. I'll work with guys back from college. But then when I get down into the 10 years old and the 12-year-olds, I got to step back and go, whoa, wait a minute. All right, that's a little advanced for a 10-year-old. I got to back off. I got to back off a little bit. How about we just work on making contact and putting the ball in play? How about we do that and not worry about whether or not you're keeping your weight back and you're keeping your head still. Boom. Let's just worry about right now making contact. How about we do that?
Who said low income breeds desire?
That's Chris Gresham said that.
All right, Chris, let me tell you, you have
he nailed
it. Hook me up on Facebook and Twitter, because we, obviously geniuses think alike. There is no doubt that there's a correlation, and you see it in sports and history in America, that at times when we were at our most poverty stricken is when we've had the greatest flourishing of athletes. You look, a guy like Yogi Berra. You talk about the way he grew up in St. Louis. He hardly had enough to eat. His family didn't speak English. These impoverished people are desperate to succeed. So I couldn't agree more. We're complacent, and that's why the American player is disappearing.
Mm-hmm. Nailed it. I mean, that's exactly why. So how do you think I got out of ATCO, Tommy? It wasn't because we were rich and we had opportunity.
Right, I know.
No, it was
listen,
I was on the fast track to being in the union, you know, working as a steam fitter. That's where I was going. That's where I was heading. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So
I say this to a lot of parents. Your kids are the kids you hated as a kid. They have everything. You hated those kids when you were a kid. They had everything. They travel. They have cars. They eat out at restaurants all the time. They have all these wonderful choices, which is a great thing. But what it doesn't inspire is what I believe is the most critical element of development, and that's desperation. Mm-hmm. If you're not desperate, you're never going to be great. You look at all these great people who have come throughout history. They were all they had a sense of desperation, and that's what drove them to do great things.
So we got a comment from Chris Busser, and it's a long one. It didn't all fit in the comment thread, so I'm just going to hit some points out of it right now. He agrees with what we're saying, many of the points, but he's been experienced with coaches in daddy ball, because he has 2 young daughters who play, is that many father coaches don't know how to teach the fundamentals, and he personally struggles with wanting his daughter to be coached by other adults, so she has to learn to interact and advocate for herself and not turn to dad. But he's also witnessed numerous practices and lifelong coaches struggle watching a practice lacking any structure. So I get what he's saying. I get what he's saying. You know, that's why I when I originally...
Except here's the one reality, Ken. Here's the one reality. Chris, your kid's probably never going to play for a good coach. You think all of a sudden you're going to go and find this litany of great coaches? It's not going to happen. It's not. How many great coaches do you think are out there? There aren't a lot. Most people are well-intended. They're giving their time. The best they could do is show up because nobody else wants to. If your kid's going to learn the game, she's probably going to learn it by taking a ball and throwing it off the wall, watching games and learning that way. That's another great way to learn. No, kids don't watch baseball or softball or any sports anymore. So if you're relying solely on coaches to imbue your kid with the fundamentals, well, I hate to tell you, you're going to have a long, long period of disappointment.
Yeah, and you know, that's part of the thing. When I first started, when my kids first started sports, I kind of just stepped back and was like, you know, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to let the coaches do it. I'm going to let them, you know, deal with it. I'm not going to say anything, right? But then I started to witness the lack of structure, the lack of teaching the fundamentals, the lack of this and that. And I didn't say anything during that season. What I did was I just signed up to coach the next season. And that was it. And then I went out and, you know, I ran a more structured practice. I worked on the fundamentals with the kids. And we got better. And we got, you know, and that's just how I did it. But I get what Chris is saying, that, you know, you go out there and you see these guys and these kids are just standing around and nobody's doing anything. And they're teaching them stuff that I would never teach any kid.
But you know this. There aren't great coaches in Pro Bowl. How many guys you run across, you go, wow, this guy's really great. And that's Pro Bowl. Forget about college. You could count on one hand how many guys I think are any good in the top colleges. Forget about lower level colleges. I'm talking about SEC and those kinds of conferences. You would be shocked at what our players tell us they're taught in the Cape. These guys are coming out to us who are terrific players who don't know the first thing about the game.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for great coaching, you know, I'll tell you what, you're going to have a really rough time with it. That's why your kid needs to play a lot.
I can name on one hand, Weber, the coaches that influenced me in my life, and it's 3 of them. And then that was pretty much it. Maybe 4. Maybe 4.
And if you do the math, that's a lot, because good is rare. Yeah. It is. You know, good anything. It's hard to find a good doctor or a good carpenter, or it's hard to find quality people, especially when you're asking people to do things for free. And you know, come on, that's a lot to ask.
Yeah, they're volunteers at the youth level.
Right.
You know, they're not getting paid. And you know, you're fortunate if you happen to get a really good coach at that level.
And who's going to be a good high school coach when they pay you $3,000 to coach the team?
Exactly.
You know, it's like if they're paying you $3,000, it's basically a declaration that you're not that good because you're taking $3,000.
It's not about the money, Webbs, for me. I just want to know. I want to spread the gospel.
Know what I mean, though?
I know exactly.
The bottom line is it's hard to ask people to work for nothing.
It's true. It's true. all the hours that I put in, if you just gave me $1 for all those hours, I would have a lot more money.
Right. Right.
But,
we've all done it.
Yeah. So Renee said keeping your mouth shut doesn't work. That is true, Renee, but I didn't really keep my mouth shut. I would take my kid aside and instruct him and say, do this. And I would teach my son and his friends, if they came by the house, I would teach them the fundamentals. And then the next season I jumped in and I took over. I was like, all right, I'll take care of it. So we got some people coming on. My friend Victor Coco from high school just jumped on. Victor, Mr. Petiti was a great math teacher. He was a nice guy, not a great baseball coach, Victor.
And that's most high school guys. It's the social studies teacher.
He was a lot of fun. I liked him, Mr. Petiti. He was cool, great math teacher, but not the best baseball coach. And I played for him when I got old, when I was in college too. When I went home in the summer, he was my coach. And I was like, whoa, all right. So it was, he was a good math teacher, Victor. I'll say that. Renee says the best compliment he ever received was he got a kid to hit at 12U after he was coached by the best coaches in the league. They said that he said they couldn't teach. Well, yeah. 3,000, and then Chris Dresham jumps back in and says $3,000 coaches are either great because they love the game, or it's just flat out they're spending time for minimum wage. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. You are fortunate sometimes at the high school level to run across an ex-professional player or somebody like that who's just doing it because they love it. And the $3,000 means nothing to them anyway. So, yeah, you get fortunate in those situations. So, that's cool.
I'm sure. Look. It's not an issue of. First of all, here's another thing. With Chris's question, your kids live with you, 22 hours a day. They're with the coach 2 hours a day. I say to people all the time, I was so lucky that I learned the game from my father, who was a professional, and we'd watch games together. It wasn't like my father was giving me lessons every day, but we would just watch the game together, and I learned. And I say this all the time, watching baseball with my father was like listening to music with Mozart. It was incredible to watch his vision and the things he saw, you just never would have noticed. He had such great insight and experience that I just soaked that all in. And I think parents are asking coaches who otherwise can't do it anyway to be, to be that in a proxy fashion, where if you could get your kid to watch more baseball and watch more softball, and you do that together, they're going to learn the fundamentals. Because I didn't play for great coaches either. Who did? I had the little league guy who, was a plumber or whatever and was a nice man, but he didn't really know a lot about baseball.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know that kids are engaged enough in the game so that they can learn the way a generation ago people did, by osmosis.
Yeah, just by getting out and doing it and being there.
Right.
And being involved, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah. I mean, that's how I learned
it. It's a lot to ask.
That's how I learned playing baseball.
To ask? Yeah, it's a lot to ask of somebody to teach you everything you need to know. Look, you watch games enough, you're going to learn the fundamentals. You're going to emulate the way other guys do it, the way good players do it. But kids don't watch. Kids don't participate enough. What they do is they go and expect to learn everything from a coach in a 2-hour session. That's not going to happen.
Bobby Kahn just jumped on. Hey, Bobby Kahn. He says, Webbs, that's when baseball was a game. It's been turned into a business at the youth level, and it's very sad. Well, yep, absolutely, Bobby Kahn. Absolutely. Go ahead, Webbs.
But you know what? It's not to sound the one hand clapping. Every junkie needs an enabler, and we've been enablers. We've bought in hook, line, and sinker. So we have no one to blame but ourselves. We do, and now I don't know that the horse is out of the barn and there's no way to get him back in, because this is a runaway train. It really is. I mean, I see it getting worse before it gets any better.
Yeah, I deal with it, like you said. I deal with it every season. I'm going to deal with it coming up with these winter workouts that we're going to be doing. I got 12 slots. I know parents are going to be on the phone with me complaining that their kid didn't get into one of those slots. It's not a whether your kid's good or not slot. This is how many slots I have. It's a small facility. They can't have any more. It's a safety thing. It's an insurance thing. They can only have 12 guys in there at a time. So, and I'm going to get these phone calls from these parents saying, well, why didn't well, did you get a hold of me? Because I sent the email out to everybody at the same time. Did you pay your money first? No, the other 12 people did. Sorry. But that's what I'm going to have to deal with coming up.
And you and I have had these discussions forever. We're grown-ups, and we're having this discussion with other grown-ups. It's mind-boggling to me that we've all checked our self-respect and dignity at the door and still engage in this. It's amazing that people, still are running interference, and they place such an importance on this.
Yep.
Like, God forbid your kid was sick. That's when you should be placing this much importance on your kid. This is a game.
Yeah.
They should be having fun, and that's why free play is the answer. Bring back the schoolyard, open the gyms, let kids go in, throw out the basketballs, the wiffle ball bats, let them play, and they would not want to come home. They'd want to be there all day long.
Yeah. I know I didn't want to come home. Well, I can't even get my kid to put down the Fortnite controller and go do stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then if I ask him, hey, let's go watch a game, what are you kidding? Baseball, that's boring. I don't want to watch that. Okay.
And here's a word you never hear in travel ball and daddy ball. Win.
Yeah. No.
Winning has been literally, I am shocked. When I speak to some of these really good players, it's like winning isn't something, they're not after winning. It's like baseball's become a commodity that you trade to get something else. I'm going to trade it to be on the travel ball team. I'm going to trade my baseball skills to get on my high school team. I'm going to trade my baseball skills to get a college scholarship. We've commoditized the game, and it's kind of sad.
Well, winning has become a dirty word, right? A dirty word.
Right.
And did I tell you what I wanted to talk about the other night? Listen to this. And this goes right back to what we're talking about, winning, all right? Winning. And then we'll hit Chris Gresham's comment, and we're going to have to wrap it up. But my brother-in-law, we go out the other night, we're at dinner, and we're talking about winning. And it gets on the youth sports, and he does T-shirts. He makes T-shirts for all the local youth sports groups, right? And he said he had to make a co-champion sweatshirt for 2 teams in this one league. And I'm like, what co-champion shirt? He goes, yeah. He goes, at the end of the season, it is offered up to the top 2 teams that are supposed to play in a championship game, right? It is offered up that they can say they just want to be co-champions and not play the championship game. And it goes to either team. If one of those teams says we want to be co-champions, they don't play the championship game, and they both are champions of the league. Are you shitting me? Right? Is that what? So the coach who knows that they're going to get crushed by the other team, right? I just want to be co-champions. We'll take that. We'll take that. And I'll walk around town with my co-champion sweatshirt on.
That's like when you're in the knockout pool and there's like 4 guys left and there's 20 grand on the table and they make a deal to split the money. Right?
I know it.
That's what they're doing.
Bobby,
I got to make a shout out. Let me just make a shout out here. Dylan Dando, one of the best baseball guys around. We need more guys like Dylan around. Dylan is a fierce competitor. I loved competing against him. He had those great Allentown teams that won championships in the ACBL. We need more guys like Dylan. Go ahead. Yep. Sorry.
Bobby Kahn just threw the perfect comment out. The pussification of America. Yes. Yes, Bobby. It is. It is.
Well.
Okay. So, and yeah, Chris, you're right. My brother-in-law did take that money. He took the money for those shirts, those sweatshirts. He did. He printed them up, and boom, he sent those suckers out. Yeah, my brother-in-law's he ain't dumb, man. But he couldn't believe it. He told me that. I was like, you got to be kidding. Co-champions? What?
Do you get half a ring? Do you get half a ring?
No, you get the sweatshirt. You get the sweatshirt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you get the co-champion sweatshirt. That's all you get. Really? A tie champion? Yes, a tie championship. How stupid is that, man? So anyway, Weber.
Well, I have to say this. That leads me to our obsession with handshaking. I had a catcher in the Cape. He shakes the umpire's hand. My third baseman shakes the third base umpire's hand. My first baseman, when they came back, what are you doing? Why would you ever shake an umpire's hand? But that's what this is all about. It's a gigantic love fest. It really is.
Well, that's what, at the youth level, that's where they're starting that stuff. That's where they learn it there, because they're told, and go shake the umpire's hands, go shake the other team's hands, shake the umpire's hands. That's where they're taught all that. And then it just carries over when they get to college.
Just great.
Yeah. I didn't want to shake hands with anybody in college. We had to. Too many fights started that way, too. You remember some of the fights we had?
It's stupid optics. That's all it is.
Yeah. And professionally, I loved it. After the first game,
I don't remember. I don't remember any fights. You don't remember that fight at the ground round. I don't remember the ground round fight.
You don't remember that fight?
I don't remember that.
Me neither.
My gosh, that was unbelievable.
That was so dumb, but it was fun.
Oh God, it was fun.
It was fun. But professionally, when I got the chance, the first game we played, and the manager's like, "Yeah, you don't shake hands after." I was like, "Really? This is friggin' awesome." Right? We just go back to the locker room and change?
Right. And you don't call me coach.
Yeah.
And son, don't call me coach.
Never. I called him coach once, and he said, "Come here. Ever call me that again? My name is Rhodey. That's it. You call me Rhodey,
but
don't ever call me coach." And I tell the kids on my team now, don't call me coach. You should see the look on their face. They're like, "What do you mean?" I was like,
me too.
Don't call me coach.
My guys too.
Yeah, call me a nickname.
I can't believe you're actually treating them like a human being.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Treat kids like human beings, and they actually will, kind of do stuff for you. They'll get out there and they'll put an effort forth if you treat them like a human being.
You got to be an advocate, man. That's what your job is to be an advocate.
Yep. Hey, Brian O'Neill. Brian O'Neill came on through
the right-hander.
Yeah.
Good right-hander.
Right. Speaking about one of the great firemen up there in New York City too. There he is, Brian O'Neill. That's right.
Best in the world. Best in the world.
All right, guys. We got to wrap this up. I got The Curse of Oak Island coming on, so I got to go watch my show. I'm sorry. I just have to. It's the one thing I'm addicted to. I got to do it. I got to go watch The Curse of Oak Island.
It's so lame. You're so lame.
I am lame. But it's what I do. It's holy shamoly, Weber.
You know what? A couple of weeks off, and we finished strong in this show. This is a great show. We got a lot of great people on. I hope they keep coming on. I know. I hope so, too. Give us suggestions and topics, and feel free to say whatever you want. Yeah, whatever you want, man. Let's get it out there. Let's just... I love it, man. I love it. I love talking baseball. It's really great to see a forum where people say like constructive stuff. It's not everybody screaming and yelling at one another. Yeah. So, all right, Webbs. It was great having you on. Man. Thanks for joining me on Tuesday night, man. I'm sorry about the Sunday night stuff with the movies stuff going on. I got you. Sorry I had to miss. But yeah, you've done me a few favors. You've done me a few favors in my life. Don't worry about it. All right, I'm gonna come up. As a matter of fact, I'll be up tomorrow. So, cool. Yeah, I won't be able to stick around though. I'm in and then I'm right back out again. So I got to get back down here tomorrow night. But I will see you next week, Sunday night coming up. We'll do Sunday nights and all. Yep, everybody, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys Sunday night. Be back. Love you, man. I love you too, and I will see you guys later. Thanks, man. Peace.